Okay, this video is going to be called Water Landscapes. Where this comes out of is I had a whole bunch of paintings that I didn't have a good category to put them in, especially scenes with water from landscapes. So I just made a video called, this video is called Water Landscape. This will be part one. It's probably going to be 3 parts. And I think you'll find these paintings are very beautiful. Some of the most beautiful landscape paintings ever made. Okay, so the first one is Sunrise Above the Clouds by Frederick Edwin Church. Okay, he was a magnificent, part of that same group and school of painters around the mid-1800s, including Thomas Cole and the Hudson River School and Albert Bierstadt. They're magnificent. There's other great ones too. I'll show them as we go along here. We start with a sunrise and we talk a little bit about it, almost like the upheavals at the beginning of the world, the volcanoes contributing to the formation of islands and the land continents. Okay, and a beautiful painting here, Cotopaxi Volcano Mountain by Frederick Edwin Church. Okay, now here is Rainy Season in the Tropics by Frederick Edwin Church. All 3 of the first couple paintings were Frederick Edwin Church. And by the way, the rainbow, as far as I'm concerned, my father's from Ireland, is a symbol of the Lucky Charms, okay, and a pot of gold at the end, okay, Lucky Charms, it's Irish, okay, and I don't like this modern leftism taking something that is beautiful and good and turning it into like a celebration of anal sex. That's ridiculous, okay. All right, the rainbow sort of meant, a beautiful thing and a pot of gold at the end, and it was something upbeat, and rain brings life, okay, and Frederick Edwin Church traveled around the world to make beautiful landscape paintings. And so we don't want you taking our symbols away. You're not going to change our language and change how we talk or change how we think. Okay, so here is Heart of the Andes, again by Frederick Edwin Church. And, again, just beautiful from his travels. He painted these, and you see the water rushing. The water rushing is part of life. You see the Christian symbols. And by the way, every single painting was made by Christians. All this multiculturalism is BS. Christian art is magnificent. The art of all other cultures stinks in comparison. It stinks, okay? We'll make that clear. We don't apologize for Christianity. It's quite clearly superior to all other cultures, okay? There's no other culture 5% as good as Christianity at art. It's magnificent. Because Christianity shows you that you're created in the image of God and the universe is rational, you can understand it, and we can be creators too, as we are created in the image of God. Here is Mountain of the Holy Cross in the Snow by Edward Moran from 1890. You can see the sign of the cross up there. And again, it's another beautiful landscape as the river winds its way down. It makes a path. And here is the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone by Edward Moran. Again, it's just beautiful. And now here is back to Frederick Edwin Church, and it's just magnificent. This is his painting of Niagara Falls. And I went there too, and it looks just like this. It's magnificent. And mankind, when he's trying to please God and to the glory of God, he just creates one beautiful thing after another. Now just look at this painting, okay? This is an AO, academic orgasm. It's magnificent. It's beautiful. It's sublime, okay? I actually think this is the greatest landscape painting ever made. Among the Sierra Nevada Mountains by Albert Bierstadt. So Sierra means like a saw, sort of like a Spanish word. And it's just spectacular. The deer are coming up to the shoreline to get something to drink. This is like it's sunrise. I got the same painting at different times of the day. It's so magnificent. Okay, and here it is, a little later in the day. There's more sunshine beating on there. And I think we should be grateful to the men who created all these things. And we should also cut all this male-female equality BS. All of these paintings were made by men. I have spent a lot of time trying to understand art and gone through, I don't know, like 100,000 paintings. I can tell you all of the great artists are men, 100% of them. And I know women were busy taking care of their babies up until birth control, around the 1950s and later. They typically would have, 10 kids, okay? So that's going to keep you pretty busy. Not a lot of time for painting. But there's also an objective sense of contemplation that men have. A woman, since she's born, knows she's going to be having kids, since she's young, she knows she's going to be having kids, and that's going to be a major part of his life. A man has to find something to do. He doesn't have babies. And we should be honest about it, because our society is trying to always put men down and put women up on a pedestal. That was done intentionally by the left to weaken and feminize society. And so there's been all this hatred of men and all this over glorification of women. And don't get me wrong, I love women, believe me. But I don't think they should be in the same category as men when we're talking about something like painting. There simply isn't a single great female painter out of all the great painters that have ever lived. There's a couple good ones. I think Bev Doolittle is the best painter the USA has ever produced. But there aren't any great ones. I've never seen one. And it requires a lot of objective thought, and it requires a lot of time. But it's just a fact, because unless noble masculinity reasserts itself, the West is dead. Okay, the West will no longer continue to exist. It's going to be a third world, slavery center. Okay, unless noble masculinity reasserts itself. So I think the men have to do this. You have to stop with all this feminization stuff. Be proud. You should be proud. Christianity has nothing to apologize. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to mankind. Okay, and you should be proud of it. You should know about this, and you should teach this to the younger generation. And the women should support the men. Yeah, great, they can do whatever they want, and they can also create some really good things. They've done some great things in literature here and there, but you're going to end up with noble masculinity leading, or we're going to fail. Okay, there's no such thing as a gynocracy, and it is time to admit that and make things better, because this gynocracy path is suicide. Okay. And the gynocracy is being pushed on us because the billionaire perverts know it's suicide, and that's why they want the West to collapse, okay? And you need Christians because they put what is right and what God wants of us ahead of all the petty concerns of the moment, okay? And here is sort of in the evening, the same painting. It's just magnificent, the different times of the day. Okay, here's another painting by Albert Bierstadt. You see Frederick Edwin Church at the beginning, you're like, this is magnificent. How could any artist be better? And then you see Albert Bierstadt, and you're like, oh my God, as magnificent as Frederick Edwin Church was, Bierstadt's better. He's superlative. Okay, this is Lake Tahoe, just magnificent. Every little brushstroke took a decision. The amount of skill and judgment is just off the charts. Here's Mount Corcoran by Albert Bierstadt. Again, the bear walking up to the water line. You see the melted snow working its way down the stream to the water. And here is Oxbow, Connecticut River, okay, by Thomas Cole. The water winds its path. The artist sketches it. And here's A Stream and a Deer by Peter Monk Munstead. Around 1905, and it's just rather beautiful. We've all seen scenes like this when we've gone for a walk in the woods. Okay, and here's River Landscape by Peter Monk Munstead. Okay, you can see the mallard geese are landing in the water. I want Western civilization to survive. I'm doing the little bit that I can by teaching people about it, because you have to know it's worth preserving. And when you see it, you will recognize that it's spectacular. And not only is it spectacular, it is by far superior to all other cultures. And Christianity is superior to all other religions. And Christian culture and Western civilization is superior to all other civilizations. That's why everybody wants to move to Western civilization. They know where they come from is a third world crap hole, okay? But other people should be coming here and should, ready to do some work or have some useful skills, but we don't want to be flooded with third world people who turn us into a third world country. We don't want that. And I want to also show you the difference between Christianity and atheism, okay? This painting was made in Russia in 1889 by Ivan Shishkin. It's called Morning in the Forest, and you can see sort of like the morning in the life on Earth, and you got the big, mama bear, and you got the baby bears, and it's beautiful, okay? Their sense of curiosity and play. And the point of this painting as well is that Russia was very skilled at art and literature in the 1800s. But how come there's no good art or literature out of the 1900s, other than stuff that criticizes the place like Gulag Archipelago and Dr. Zhivago. It's because atheism says life has no meaning. And then you have some tyrant who just beats the crap out of everybody and nothing good happens. Everybody's just basically a slave, okay? So you need Christianity, you need capitalism, and you need the Constitution in order to have freedom. That's reality. There's no way around that. It doesn't matter what you as an individual want. That's just what happens at a societal level. And we need to acknowledge that, okay? And we also need to acknowledge we need strong, good men to lead the country if it's going to be good. Yeah, of course, women can help in their way, but in the end, you're going to need a strong, good man, okay? And we have to stop kidding ourselves that women and men are the same. They are not. They are not at all, okay? All right, here is The Monarch of the Glen by Edwin Landseer, 1851. Another magnificent painting. Okay? Women can say they're equal all they want, but the fact of the matter is they're different than men. They're much, much better with children, but they're also very emotional. To make a magnificent masterpiece of a painting, you have to remain objective for days and weeks and months on end, okay? It takes a different type of personality, okay? To be an engineer, a physicist, to run a country, okay? Like my girlfriend, you know, during her period, she's emotional, off the charts. She physically can't do anything. They got the strength of sixth grade boys. Yeah, we love them. Yeah, they're adults. Yeah, they're important to maintain society and stuff. But they are not going to run a country and stand up to the communists of the left. They're just not going to do it. You don't send a bunch of women, you know, to be on your wrestling team or your football team. In Ukraine, look what happened. All the women run, and the men are stuck there to deal with it, okay? That's reality, okay? Now here's a great bald eagle by Robert Bateman, probably the greatest painter of animals who ever lived. He's magnificent. Okay, and then here's Christ who designed everything. There's the eagle flying high in the sky. It's a beautiful thing. It reminds me of the song Shana Golden. And he's looking at his own creation, and we look at it all in awesome wonder. And there's a great tiger, another one of the King of the Beasts, Tiger at Dawn by Robert Bateman, spectacular. I mean, these paintings, they're beyond good. They're spectacular. They're magnificent. And then man comes along onto earth, created in the image of God, okay? And man is created in the image of God, therefore he too can be a creator. We have a rational, knowable universe as written about in the Bible, so we can study it and learn it. Many other cultures, like Indian culture, they got this principle of Maya, that life is unknowable, you know, and these other things aren't even religions. Buddhism, that's not a religion. He's a guy. It's just a philosophy. Same thing with Confucianism. Shinto worships their ancestors. That's not a god. That's not a religion. That's a philosophy. Okay, a philosophy doesn't make people strong enough to stand up to money. People have to be able to say, I will do what is right, no matter what the money. And as far as I've seen, the only thing that can really be good at doing that is Christianity. Okay, I just haven't seen any other way around in modern world where people will do what is right regardless of money, unless they've got Christianity behind them. Yeah, there's individual exceptions here and there, but in the long run, that's the only thing that can unite a culture and make them stand up to it. Okay, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden by Jan Bruegel, Peter Paul Rubens, 1615. A nice landscape and keep life simple. Sadak in Search of the Waters of Forgetting, another of these paintings about waters, and you could see that it reminds me of Prometheus climbing up to Mount Olympus to steal fire from the Olympians. Okay, the waters rushing down, the struggle in life to achieve, to do anything. Okay, and that's the end of part one. I hope you found that helpful.